welcome to another up close video. Today's one is for Tonic Stamp Club number 17, which is called the Wildflower Wonderland, and it's a gorgeous floral foliage kind of frame that also has a little sort of swag here as well that can go up the side of the card, it can go along the bottom of the card. This frame can be used either way up or vertically or horizontally as well, and you've also got extra dies which make it even more of a versatile kind of frame as well. Whether you want to cut it out and have the middle solid, you can cut it out and have the middle as an aperture as well. You can just cut the middle as an aperture and make it a shaker card. You can also incorporate this oval into it too and add some like little bit of foliage and floral detail around the edge of an oval and like raise that up. You can do different techniques where you like raise bits up and colour parts of it and not other parts of it. You can use like the main stamp on the actual background and then add this weird wiggly shape back in the centre of it to kind of block off the centre and help your sentiment stand out even more as well. And you've also got lots of other elements in here like a butterfly, a hummingbird, also the dies to cut them out, and then lots of other extra wildflower dies as well. I'm filming this video in two parts, so past me will show you 3 samples later on in the video that are in my sped up video, where I've tried to use like pretty much everything from the set with lots of the flowers and showing a few different ideas as well. And then after I've walked through the stamp and die set, I've got one more sample to show you as well, which will be a photographic step-by-step on the Tonic Studios blog that's just kind of showing a different way that I've already shown to how to kind of use this and create a lovely card with it. So let's have a look at the stamp set first, considering this is a stamp club. So let's take this out of the packaging, and actually I will keep it on the backing piece so that you can see through it. Sorry if my stamps are a bit dirty because I've been using them, but the main focal stamp is this gorgeous kind of almost like wreath or frame of flowers and foliage on here, and it fits perfectly on a small sort of A2 kind of sized card. But if you want to create larger cards, I'm sure you could definitely use like these 2 flowers as a stopping point, snip round them, and then stamp another one, flip it up the other way, and like merge it back together and hide the join under these 2 large flowers, and you could make a larger frame for a larger card. If I did like making larger cards, I would have done that to show you, but as I love my smaller cards, it fits perfectly on your smaller cards for you. But you can definitely snip into this and make it larger for those bigger cards if you want to. But it's a lovely frame design because you can actually use it all ways round. It seems to look nice landscape this way, but also landscape this way, and then these flowers look like they're sort of draping down more. You can also use it portrait up this way, or you can use it portrait up this way. The way they've designed it, they've kind of given you different flowers with different sort of perspectives to them, so it actually looks nice in all different directions, which is lovely. So it gives you lots of versatility for however you want to place it on your card, and you don't have to think about the way round before you like cut it out and stuff. You can actually decide that afterwards because you can flip it up whichever way you want to. And then as well as that main frame, you also have this one here, which again you could use on larger cards. You could have this as like 2 opposing corners on an 8x8 card, and maybe even mat and layer the central portion in the centre of that as well to give an overall kind of design to a larger card. But it also fits perfectly on a smaller design too, just having this smaller element here. It was a while ago I made them, but I think this was the one that I turned into a shaker card. I think I did the stuff shaking over the top of this. So because you have the coordinating dies to go with these, it makes making shaker cards so much easier, and I probably already explained that when I showed you that card. But yeah, really lovely, gorgeous sort of half wreath kind of design, but you can also use it to create a whole wreath if you want to, or to extend onto this one as well. If you did what I said here and sort of snipped around these flowers, you could then maybe add this on as the extra portion of the frame to kind of change it up and make it a larger sort of frame design as well. So some gorgeous flowers within there, lots of these lovely daisies or like black-eyed Susan kind of flowers. Then you've sort of got side views of you know, maybe this is a a flower that's been around for a little bit, some of the petals are falling out. You've got these long kind of ones as well, these sort of petunia-y kind of flowers too, all sorts of different ones mixed in there that you could definitely turn into different types of flowers depending how you colour them as well. And then you've got lovely little bits of foliage in there too, so it balances the greens across the card when you're colouring it. And you can actually, because there is different types of foliage, you can also mix and match your green tones in there as well, which is nice. So it gives a different variation across the card. You can have like bright green leaves with a pink daisy or something, but then over here you can make this more of a muted green leaf with this sort of flower as well. So it's nice that you can mix and match with the different types of foliage to the different flowers and stuff and bring in different colours. So that's like the second main stamp from the set. And then you also get a lovely side view of a butterfly, so really pretty intricate kind of butterfly with these little patterns in the wings that are fantastic for bringing in the rest of the colours from your card. So say you stamped and coloured all of your flowers first, then you want the butterfly to match. You can actually bring in some of the different colours you used on the flowers in these little sections of the butterfly, which I think is always lovely to do. And then you can just sort of, you know, use a darker tone or a grey or something for the body of the butterfly. And then again with the hummingbird, you can also do that as well. You can bring in some of those more tropical kind of colours for your flowers and then add a really wacky tropical hummingbird as well. I think on my card I did actually Google what a hummingbird looks like to kind of get the placement of the colours, but you know, they're such a beautifully vibrant kind of bird that you can just go with whatever colours you want to really, and they always look lovely. But again, you could also bring in multiple different colours and colour these feathers in varying colours as well, and really make it sort of more fantasy rather than realistic kind of colours too. And actually holding this stamp set like this, you can see that that swag is probably meant to go up this way, but it also looks lovely lying down on your card as well, so you can get so many different positions out of these. And then the rest of the stamps on the stamp set are all your lovely sentiments that go with this kind of floral nature, flowers, you know, like growing and being wild and free sort of sentiments. So you've got I couldn't have picked a better friend. And I love this mixture of the two fonts actually. This really like open, scripty, loose sort of font, and then this almost modern typewriter-y kind of font as well. You've got Grow with the Flow, you've got You're the Best, you've got Keep Growing, you've got Look at You Grow, and then you've got You Drive Me, and then you can do Wild. You've got In the World, so you can do You're the Best in the World. You can possibly mix some other bits and pieces as well. You've got Wild and Free. You can do Wild Thing as well. Which other one did I just miss out? Ever as well. So that one could go with You're the Best Ever. And you can mix and match all of those different kind of sentiments together as well. I'm sure there's different ones too. But I love the little ampersand in the middle there. So you can do the Wild and Free. But on the die set, you also have one little word die, which also says Wild. So you can actually combine Wild and Free. So if you're mixing your stamps with your dies and you want to mix that up with the sentiment as well to make it sort of coordinate even better, you can actually use the word Wild and Free to go together for your sentiment on your project too. So a lovely little scripty Wild. It's kind of similar to the open scripty font here, but it's a bit thicker so that it works better as a little die. And then while we've got the dies out as well, I'll show you the coordinating ones that go with this too. So looking at this die, I think the best way to get this to line up is to look at this bit here. So there's like one flower poking out. So then if you look on the stamp, there's one little flower poking out over here. So then you'll know that that is the line up point for the outside. Let's come in a little bit closer so you can see it. So that's the outside of that large frame. And then you also get the inside of the large frame as well. And let's go with that flower again. So you've got a flower sticking up here. And if you look in the design, there's a flower sticking out here. So you can actually line that up perfectly and completely cut this out, or you can use one or the other depending on what kind of project that you're doing. Or I was actually quite enjoying on the card that I'll show you in a second, just using this area here. I did a washy sort of background and then I sort of raised up some of the flowers and coloured them in, but then I came back with a pearlescent white card and cut this central section out and added that back in, so it kind of made the frame more evident again, but without detracting too much, and it kind of makes your sentiments stand out a bit better. I will show you that in a second, but I quite enjoyed doing that. And then you also have an oval as well, which is a really nice squat chubby oval, which is my favourite kind of oval, which you can actually use in conjunction with either of these to create a different design as well. And I'm pretty sure one of my other cards I experimented with that, so you can actually bring in that oval design, or you can just use the oval individually with some of the extra gorgeous dies in the set as well. I think this kind of design lends itself nicely to an oval, and this one in particular combines very nicely with that oval design. So you could have the oval in the background and then raise this sort of swag piece up in front of it as well, and you get the die to go with that, and that's easy to line up because it just goes in one direction. And again, with Tonic's stamp clubs, they like to be very nice to you, I suppose, and when you line up your die with the actual stamped image, you can still see the whole stamped image through the die, so you can actually perfectly line it up and then cut it out without having to worry that you spent hours colouring something and then the die cutting isn't going to be perfect. You can completely line it up within the metal of the die to know that you're going to get that perfect cut. And then, as well as those dies, you also have the two that coordinate with the side view of the butterfly and also the hummingbird as well. So you can perfectly cut out those gorgeous little characters to add onto your card if you want to as well. Or you can just use them individually on another project with, maybe you've got some like 3D die cut flowers that you want to have a go at making, but you're not sure how to finish the rest of the card. You could add a gorgeous hummingbird onto that, or a butterfly or something as well. So I really love having these dies to cut those kind of little characters out, because it just makes it so easy to then add them onto a card. And as a lot of people say, butterflies and things are great for like hiding if you've got a smudged fingerprint or something on your card as well. So you've got those two dies to cut those out, and then the rest of the dies in the set are some gorgeous little wildflowers, which I did use on one of the cards that passed me, will show you, so you've got an idea of sort of how to use those as well. But some beautiful ones here. They kind of, some of them emulate the sort of flowers that are in the drawn stamps, and some of them are like completely different as well, so it's nice to sort of mix and match them. I think this one is really lovely. This kind of, it's almost looking up at the kind of petals of the flowers. This one's almost like a cow parsley or something, and then you've got sort of like branchy things as well. So if you did just want to snip out some of these individual daisy kind of flowers, you can add these sort of foliage pieces to them as well. This one almost looks like a dandelion, maybe one that's got a bit of the seeds blown off of it, so you can do all sorts with them. And these are great for quick cards as well, so if you didn't want to spend ages colouring in an image, you could create some really quick and simple cards, maybe using your shimmer powders or your mica mist or glimmer paste or something to create a really bright, vibrant background. And then you could even use the oval frame to frame the background, and then cut these out of a either a dark colour or just a contrasting colour to whatever the background is that you've done, and then they'll stand out really nicely on top of it. So I really like these flowers. And I think you could add to these as well. If you had like old little tiny flower punches or tiny little flower dies from another set, you could even add small little flowers onto these kind of ones as well to create a different effect. So yeah, I think it's a really nice, versatile kind of set that actually gives you lots of different styles of card that you could create, because you could go with that colouring kind of theme and go really sort of coloured. You could just heat emboss these. You could do what I'll show you in the card in a second, where I stamped it in the background, but instead of neatly colouring it, I just did a wash of watercolour over the back and picked out some flowers on a second one that I'd stamped and cut them out and put them on top. You can go really modern with your design as well, and maybe even do like a repeating hummingbird background, or a repeating side view of a butterfly background, or have 3 butterflies just on a card. Or you can go again nice and simplistic, but having that colouring element, but just not as much as the whole ring as well. You can add in some of these gorgeous flowers just by themselves, or you can mix and match them in with maybe you've done this just tone on tone for a background, or using heat embossing or something, and then you use these as your like focal element. And to create some texture on these, you could use your stone drops, you could do some triple thick embossing just on these sort of fluffy parts here, you could use some of your Nuvo expanding mousse and heat it up to give it some real texture as well, or even use some glue and then that pollen that Tonic did a little while ago as well. You could put that on there as well. So lots of different ways of you know, turning these into cards and stuff as well, not just the kind of simpler ways that I've shown you for my samples this month. There's more like advanced ways definitely that you can use these as well. So I've got one extra card to show you, which is this one, which will be the step-by-step on Tonic's blog. I just wanted to show how you don't have to spend hours colouring the whole image in. You can just stamp one of them. So I stamped one image onto a 10 by 13 piece of white card like this, and then I literally just took a couple of Aquaflows and some water and did a messy wash, a little bit of splattering and stuff, left that to dry. While it was drying, I stamped another one out, plus the butterfly, and I just picked out 5 of the flowers, and I went for the 3 white sort of daisies, but they could be pink as well, they don't have to just be white. I thought the white would contrast nicely, and then I chose blue for these 2 flowers, and then I went with blues to match the butterfly in as well. So you've kind of got the 3 daisies in a triangle and the 3 butterflies in a triangle as well. And then this is what I was saying here. This is the die, but instead of cutting into the card and creating an aperture for that kind of wiggly sort of piece in the centre, I cut it out of a pearlescent card so that it was still white but it was a little bit luxury, and then I stuck it back over the top so it hid the green that was underneath there, created more of a look so that that wreath looks like a wreath again rather than just a sort of background stamp, and it also gives somewhere for your sentiment to stand out a little bit more as well. I think it would have stood out fine, but I quite like the look of having that in there. And if you have embossing folders in your stash as well, you can emboss that little piece in the centre to give a different look, or you could have cut the die into your actual piece that you had watercoloured and then raised it up and put embossed card behind or cotton handmade paper behind or something as well. So there's loads of different ways of using those cool wiggly shaped dies that cut out the exterior and interior of that frame design. And it's really nice having those in the set. So there's lots of different ideas that you can explore with those kind of dies. And even having the ones for the butterfly and the hummingbird, you can also turn those into shakers as well. You could have a little butterfly shaker, maybe use slightly more sheer kind of confetti so that it's not sort of covering your image underneath, but it just sort of shakes in front of it and gives a different kind of look to your card as well. And it could just be a really clean and simple card as well, literally just maybe this stamp just with like a sparkly white embossing, heat embossing onto the background, plus a little shaker butterfly and then a sentiment as well. You can do really, really simple, you can go really complicated with this as well, which I think is really lovely. And you can also embellish on top of here, like this one. I could have die cut some of these wildflowers and added them on the top as well if I wanted to, or I could have put them underneath that sentiment so it sort of went over the top of this white area in the centre too. So yeah, I think it's a really lovely set. So I'll pass you over to Past Me to show you the 3 other samples that I've done. And those 3 samples are the ones that will be in the sped up video that will be up tomorrow as well. So these are the 3 cards that I've done in my sped up video, and the first one is a shaker card. I cannot resist whenever you get a large, like, beautiful stamp that has a coordinating die, doing this kind of shaker with it, because it's just perfect. I have tried doing this in the past where you haven't got the die to cut out the image to raise it up on the aperture, but it never looks as neat. It looks so much better when you actually have the die to be able to do it. So I always like to try and show this as much as I can, because you kind of don't think about using them this way round. You kind of always think about you know, cutting out the actual shape, which I have the interior piece here, and stamping onto it, or stamping it and then cutting it out. You don't often think about cutting the aperture and then like raising it up above your coloured image. So I always like to show this idea because I think it's a little bit different. So I've just coloured that gorgeous sort of curved focal point piece in on a bottom layer of cardstock. and then I've just cut the aperture in my main panel for the front of the card, and then you just raise it up above it and make your shaker card. And I've used the little tiny purple organza butterflies. You kind of want to use a confetti that is relatively transparent. It doesn't have to be clear because these are actually a purple iridescent, but they're relatively transparent. They're quite thin and they move nicely, so you can actually move them away and see the images that's behind them. If you use something like glitter, glitter is very likely to static to the acetate, and then you won't be able to see what's behind it, which is always so annoying when you do that. Like you've spent ages colouring something that you've put behind the aperture, and then you've used glitter in there or something really staticky, and it just completely sticks to all the acetate and you can't see through it. I mean, eventually the static does kind of go away and, you know, it all falls down, but to begin with it's a real pain when it's really staticky. So I like to use something that's relatively see-through so that it doesn't obliterate what's in there. I don't use too much of it, and I also try to use something that I know is not too staticky, so I think it gives a really cool effect. And obviously this is a very butterfly-y, hummingbirdy, florally kind of themed stamp club, so having the little butterfly shakers works really nicely. But also the ice white circle confetti works really nicely for this kind of thing as well. So then for the rest of this card, I coloured in my butterfly to look very similar colour-wise to the rest of this, and then I've just used the two CRaFTi words wild thing and then stamped them both together so they're overlapping. They are individual words, but you can stamp them together, which is quite nice. And then I've just used my black pen to do a scribbly kind of border around it because I thought that would go quite nicely with the style. And for all of the colouring on these three cards, actually, I used my Nuvo alcohol pens, and then I came back in with some of the Nuvo classic coloured pencils and just added a little bit of extra detail. So I think you could just about see a little bit of extra shading on the butterfly. The great thing about doing this is it just like slightly enhances your colouring, but also if you struggle with your blending and getting a smooth transition to like a darker to a lighter colour, as well as doing the tip of scribbling your darker colour onto here and picking it up and then colouring with it, the coloured pencils actually really help you disguise that kind of seam between them. So here, going from the dark to the light, adding a little bit of the coloured pencil gives a much smoother kind of transition between the two colours. So if you haven't tried that before, it was my friend Dawny that pointed it out to me that you can use your colour pencils over the top of your colouring, and it really works so nicely. So definitely give that a go if you haven't tried it before. So that is the first card from my sped up video. Then I've done this one, which is using a lot of the die cuts that are in there, the separate individual die cuts. But again, I've coloured everything with the same pens and pencils, so it all kind of goes together. And then I have added the hummingbird onto here as well. And for the sentiment, instead of using the word wild from here, I've used the word and free and done the same scribbly box around it, but I used the wild die cut instead of the wild stamped word. And then also, because I've got the black outline around the hummingbird and the black up here, I wanted to kind of balance it a little bit. You'll see in the video without this if you'd rather like not include that, but I still can't decide whether I like it with it or without it, but anyway, I've added it on there now, so it's there. But I just thought wild and free, look at you grow is quite a nice sort of sentiment anyway. And I love these little florals, they're just so pretty. They're all like kind of wildflowers, as the name of the stamp club would suggest. But the gorgeous like little side views of these little flowers, these kind of, I suppose it's probably cow parsley or something, but I've coloured it purple, but never mind. It can be anything you want it to be, really. And these kind of remind me of like some kind of foxglove or gladioli or something. I'm not expert with names, so I've probably said them all wrong, but that kind of a thing. And I've just done them in sort of purple and blues to sort of go along with everything else. Again, with like the flowers on here, I just went with the purples and the blues to kind of tie it all together. And then I've got the little hummingbird up there, which, I don't know if you can tell, yeah, I've actually stamped and die cut two of them, and then on one of them I just coloured the back wing, and then on the front one I snipped the front or the back wing off of it, so it just had the front wing, and then I layered them. So there's tiny bit of dimension between the front and back wings on the hummingbird. I just thought that was something a little bit different to kind of do. So that is the second card. And then the third one, I was trying something a little bit different, but now I'm like, maybe it's a little bit too busy. It looks a bit too busy, but anyway, I thought I would leave it in because, you know, it's another idea for you to do. So the dies that you get that I will have already shown you earlier in the video, you do get the die to cut out the outside of this gorgeous floral oval, and you get the die to cut out the inside, but you also get an oval die in there as well. So what I wanted to do was to use the oval and the inside piece to cut out a section. Originally, I wasn't going to have the stamping in the background, I was just going to have that oval design, but I felt like the oval was a bit too small and it was cutting off quite a lot of the details that were on there. So instead, I decided to use them both together, raise the oval up so it gives a little bit of difference, it's on some 3D foam, but colour just the oval portion and then line the design back up again. I think it's kind of a cool idea. And then I added a butterfly on there as well to kind of bring some of the colour outside of the oval too. And then I also decided to use some of those same wildflowers and put them going in the foreground. It might not have needed the wildflowers, or I could have put them behind the aperture rather than going in front of it. But anyway, it's just another kind of idea of how you might want to use some of these dies and stamps together. But definitely have a play with this kind of idea, using the oval with the interior piece, or even the oval with the exterior piece as well. You'd have more left on the exterior pattern than you do on the interior pattern, so it might work better if you used the outside and coloured the outside. I don't know, but anyway, you can have a play with that and see if you come up with something that looks a bit better or a little bit less busy than this card. But I do quite like how it turned out. It just wasn't quite as I was imagining in my head, but I still do like it. And then I used the sentiment, I couldn't have picked a better friend, and that actually comes as one piece, and these are, you know, above and below the word picked, but I just decided to stamp it twice. On one of them I cut these sort of sub-sentiments into rectangles, and then on the other one I just sort of fussy cut around the word picked as well, so another different way of kind of using it. And then I found a patterned paper that would work nicely for the background. It's from the Blue Blossom colour trend paper pad, so if you have that one, I thought that went nicely with the kind of purples and dark blues that I'd coloured everything else with. So those are the 3 cards that will be in my sped up video, and I will pass you back to future me to finish off the video for you. So I hope you liked those samples as well, and I hope you enjoyed this up close video looking at Stamp Club number 17, which is the Wildflower Wonderland. And if you're interested in getting hold of this stamp and die set, there will be affiliate links below the video and also on my blog post as well. And I really do appreciate you taking the time to use my links too. And if you're a kit subscriber, you can still use your TCK discount code after clicking on one of my links as well. It doesn't prevent you from using that. So if you have thought that in the past, then that's not the case. So take advantage of your 10% off if you have a active kit subscription as well. So thank you so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed the video and got some ideas or inspiration from some of the cards that I did. I did keep them quite simple for these ones, but you can definitely go a little bit more mixed media, more three-dimensional, and bring in some other different techniques that you might have learned, or other different dies and stamps and embossing folders and things that you've got in your stash as well. I think they'll go really nicely with this. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you again in the next video. Bye!